let's get started. My name is Chris Shear. I'm going to do some training on Inside Edge Trader, and I'm just going to go ahead and log in with an existing layout I have. I've already got a bunch of content here, more than you'd have if you're just getting started, but that's okay. So I'm going to log in and let this load up. It's indicative of the layout I'm using is indicative of the stock CNFT room layout. I've made a couple display changes in here based on more recent functions, but I'll let that load up. Alright, I'm going to log in as a CQG demo user, so I've got a credential aside for myself. Case sensitive with CQG for demo or live, so you always got to get them exactly just so. And this is an older layout, so it's not, but for working with CQG, use web price should typically be checked in here. Alright, it's going to run through the rebuilds, and in this case I've just got a set of ZB and ZN charts, two profiles in here. Alright, ZB finished up, ZN finished up. Some of the things that I was going to point out initially are just some of the new display functions. These are as of the newer version of the software, and something I noticed too was that some of the older templates, and I'm going to get some new ones there for some of these charts, came up looking odd. If you got an F4, say, from the training site, and it came up with some black lines in there, there's a reason for that. I've got an F4, and I've already got it set up with this new display style here, with the standard deviations as a background, as banding. If I right-click and go to Chart Parameters, and then click on Bid Ask Bars, my new options are here. So I have these new cells for the deviations, and when I check background, that's when I get this style of drawing with the banding. If I uncheck background, it'll look more like the traditional or older style, and you can have that if you just want the lines. But if you want to see that banding, and you're probably seeing that projected in the room these days, go to Chart Parameters, to Bid Ask Bars. Now if you had a template, an older one, like I was saying, that it opened up and some of those were black, if you come to this dialog, Chart Parameters and Bid Ask Colors, these boxes will be black too, a couple of these. But if you click on it, you can pick out a color and you can actually change it. So you can update a template a color at a time if it's messed up, but then we'll also get some new ones uploaded. If I check background again, click OK and OK, I'll get that style with the banding behind. Another common display item now. There's a question there. Let me go back there. The question is, what is color mode do? If I go back to Chart Parameters to Bid Ask Bars, color mode in the case of this bar style isn't going to do much. We'll use a different example. Let me open up just a regular F5. On the F5 chart, you've got more traditional bid ask bars, and color mode refers to this square that gets drawn around it. It's like a border to indicate the cell that's the mode. So if I right click, Chart Parameters, and Bid Ask Bars, that mode color is there, and if it's checked, I get that border. If I uncheck this one, I'll just get solid cells on each one, like that. It's just an added display item, and it's on this style of Bid Ask Bar. Another display item, if I open up an F6, say from one of the standard templates, I've got this one and the F650. This one's looking at all quantities. This one's got lot filters set for 50 lot and greater. I'll just open up the regular one. And this is the style of the F6 typically, the base template like this. But more recently there's been an option added to draw the Tilson, which is like this average that changed from red to green, as a background. So there's a couple of steps for that. One is just one setting in chart parameters. If I right click in the bar pane and go to chart parameters, I want to check this box here, last up down. Click OK. It'll apply that change and rebuild quickly. No real big change at that point. Now the Tilson is an indicator that's populated in each pane. It's a 3-pane chart. So I have to change the style of it in each one that I want to. So I'm going to right click in the top pane, go to chart indicators, click on Tilson so it's highlighted, the parameters will populate, and then change the style from line to background. It'll pop up the parameters, just click OK, background, OK. And once it rebuilds, I'll get this other style, which once again you're probably seeing it displayed this way more often. And I can do it on each pane. So if I right click in the center pane, chart indicators, I highlight Tilson, background, OK, OK. And on the bottom pane as well, highlight Tilson, click background, OK, OK. So that's an example of how to set that up. So if you've got an existing or an older style one, last up down, and then in each pane, go to chart indicators, Tilson, and set that style to background. You got to highlight it and then change it to background. And that's how you can get that look. You may play with it, this blends in a little bit, so you may end up playing with colors or whatnot. You could change the color of the bars or of the study if you wanted to. So I might go to chart parameters, say, and I don't know, just use like something slightly lighter on the bars to see if I can create some contrast there. So that's something you can play with. But those are the functions I wanted to point out. The ability to change the F6 to that style with the Tilsons, how to get that background look, and if you happen to get a template that had those black lines. So let me use that as an example right now to talk about some templates and importing chart templates, because a lot of folks want to get matched up to what Charles has. So I'm going to exit for a moment. And I've already got some browser windows open with some of the resources that you have. This is the software download site where you can always get the software. And then if I go to cnfuturestrading.com to the training section, you log in with your software username and password. And what are up there now, if I go to Charlie's room and then down to this section, Charlie's chart templates, I get listings for all these individual chart templates that are available to download. And there's a basic description here of what to do, but I can take any one and download it and then import it. So for instance, I'll use this as an example with the thing I talked about. On the ESF4, I'm going to right click on the link and click to save it. In my case, I'm going to save to the desktop. You may have a download folder. You typically need to save to someplace like that, like a neutral location, and then I'll show you how to copy it into the software. Windows doesn't always want you to copy directly from a website into the application. So I'm going to save desktop. I got a copy of that. So now I've got a copy of this file that I downloaded from the website, Charlie's chart template. aside from that, I have some other ones that I took from his computer earlier that are newer ones. And what I've got to do once I've got the file downloaded is get it to the right location. So I'm going to take the one I just downloaded, for instance. I'm going to right click and either do cut or copy. It's up to you. I'll just do cut in this case. And then I'm going to go to the installation directory for the software. So using Windows Explorer, I already have one open. Otherwise, you might have an icon for it like this down on the toolbar. If you right click the Windows Start menu, there's usually an option for it, File Explorer. And I'm going to navigate to where the software is installed, the default installation. So I'm going to open the C drive, Program Files 86, find the listing for Inside Edge Trader. And once I open Inside Edge Trader, I've got all sorts of folders, and most of them correspond to specific file types. So in this case, I've got chart templates. I'm going to open chart templates, and then I'm going to right click and paste that file that I cut. You might get a security prompt from Windows. If so, go ahead and allow it. I'm also going to move over some of the templates that Charles sent to me. Let me clean this out so I won't have tons when we get into the software. So I've got these other ones I took copies of from him. I'm going to copy those and paste those into that directory too. Confirm the security warning. So I went to the installation directory for Inside Edge Trader, opened the chart templates folder, and dumped those items in there. Another item I have, and that I alluded to earlier, is the Strategy Builder alert file. So after we get done with this, I'll give you instructions. I'll make these files available to you if you guys want copies of the new templates. I'll eventually get them in the training site, but I just have them now. And then the Strategy Builder file is to create audible alerts on the S&B's indicators on the F4. So like I was saying, these directories correspond to different files. This SB stands for Strategy Builder is the extension. With the chart templates, it's TMPL is the extension. So I'm going to take this Strategy Builder file, and we're just going to keep it in mind. And I'm going to go to the folder called Strategies for this one. This corresponds to Strategy Builder strategy files. I'll paste that in there and confirm it. Close that out. And now I'm going to log back into the software and try out some of these files that I have imported. I think I'm going to get prompted for my CQG again. Alright, I've imported some files, some chart templates and so forth. I've already got ZB and ZN, so I want to go ahead and try out another market, and we'll use that as an example to build up some other charts. So I'm going to try out some ES charts. That's the other example one I wanted. So first I'm just going to log in another profile. For example's sake, I'll use a different trade interface. I've got trade charts for these. I'll start from a trade window on these, and then we'll add some charts to it. So I've went to trading, new, trade window 3x. I get a blank window like this. I'm going to go to trading and profiles, and I'm going to set up a mini S&P profile. Either I can choose one of my existing names, or I can type in a new label. I'll create a new one so that we're building up new stuff. And in my case, I'm using CQG price and SimTrade. Log on. It's going to connect to the data feed. So long as it subscribes okay. It'll kick it back like this. Pick out my symbol, my expiration, and I start to get some prices flowing there. And before I open charts, and because this is a different market, I'm just going to check out my times. With a new profile, I want to do that and make sure I've got it right. So on my trade window, I'm going to go to Options and Application Options, to the Log On, Log Off tab. And I'm concerned with these times down here. Day start to day end is usually the pit session. Always Eastern time, just like my stamps on the charts. So 9:30 to 16:15 is correct. 1800 to actually 17:15 is the Globex, the 24-hour session. And the use 24-hour pivots will have an impact on things like the volume studies, my cumulative volume studies. If on my profile I have this checked, my count each day will reset at the Globex open at 1800. If I don't have it checked, like it is now, my count will reset when I hit my day start time. So at 9:30, my count here on my cumulative volume study will zero out. So I'll do 24-hour in this case. Click OK. So now I want to tinker with some of the templates that I grabbed. So if I go to charts, aside from the inside edge section with the base templates, if I go to templates, that's where I'm going to see files that are in that directory I showed before. And these ones are ones that I all took from Charles. But I've got this older one. I want to show an example as what I was talking about earlier. If I open up this template, it was a little bit older one, and let it rebuild. This is one of Charles' templates from before. I get this style, so it's got a couple of things going on. It's got the IB range added, but I got these black lines. So this isn't the end of the world. If you want to correct one like this, right click in the bar pane, go to chart parameters and bid-ask bars, and this is that effect I alluded to earlier. These guys are black, but if you click on them, pick out some colors, and then click OK and OK, you can start getting it back to a more normal look. And if you go back there again, you can do that background style if you choose to. For this one. So I just wanted to show that in case you landed with an old template and you didn't know why it had black lines. It's just because it was before that change. Now I'm going to check out some of the newer ones that I opened up. So I've got all these ones 3, 4, the ones I took from Charles today. So I'm going to open up his newest ES template and see what that looks like. Alright, so I've got some different things going on here. He's got that IB range populated in here, and I can see he's got like his larger font sizes. And I can see what he's set up for here. In terms of, he's got 30 days history on his ESF4. The default and the basic template is just 5 days. His volume histogram over here, his long-term distribution, is set up. If we go to chart indicators and volume profile, I highlighted it so I see the parameters. And if I click the parameters button, I can actually see this window. So these numbers correspond to the chart title bar up here. 2 and 20,000 are the ticks per bar in the lot increment. Ticks per bar is how many price levels are you lumping together for each horizontal level in your histogram here. So in this case, two price levels. And then increment of 20,000 is within each horizontal level, each of these little ticks, these horizontal bars, represents a quantity of 20,000. The one thing I'll show that's a little different from, say, the stock templates is Charles has the quantities in here. So aside from just seeing the histogram, he likes to see the numbers. It takes up a little more space, so if you don't want that, all you have to do is uncheck show numbers, click OK, and OK. It'll rebuild and just show that histogram portion. You can also see he's got some other items in here aside from the regular stock ones. So if I right click in here and go to chart indicators, aside from the inside edge alerts, he's got previous day value area in here. Those are some of those lines. You see those dotted and dashed lines, I believe. And he's got time range, the IB range indicator. If I click on time range, he's got one set for the ES for the first hour from 9:30 to 10:30. If I click on parameters, you can see that. And the first two items here are color. We'll use this as an example because it's a good thing to point out with indicators. Hey Harry, did you see that IB range? I'm going to go back to it right now and we'll tinker with it a little bit. If I right click in the bar pane, go to chart indicators, selected indicators is what's already populated. Time range is the name of the indicator that you use to set that IB range. So if I click on parameters, I'll see the times and the extension factors. These usually you don't tinker with unless somebody instructs you to. Typically the time is set for usually an hour period. In this case, the first hour of the pit session from 9:30 Eastern to 10:30. Click OK. So right now I've got this purple banding, and I've got some lighter colors on the extensions. I can't see those right now. But if I want to change an indicator color, here's something that people fall into, is if I click time range and I highlight it, and then I go grab a color, click OK, and apply it, nothing changed. The reason is I've got to actually highlight a parameter item. So if I right click again and go back there to chart indicators, time range, when I highlight time range under selected indicators, I see these parameters populate here. And if I click on an actual parameter item, so it's highlighted, I see the color come up that it's currently set for. So before I set a color, I have to actually have a parameter item highlighted. Depending on what indicator you work with, it may be just one of these, or it may be a couple. In this case, it's the first couple that matter. So if I wanted to change the color of the band a little bit, I'll highlight start, click on color, and pick something out, whatever it may be. You can pick out a custom color, whatever. I'll grab like a pink. The second one, second, third, fourth ones in this case have to do with the little extension lines that you get. But we'll just start out changing the band. Once I apply it that way, then my color actually updates. And the extensions I was talking about, those parameter items, the center line set to white, so it draws this little thin one. And then I've got extension lines further out. This little red line and a darker red line. So if I go back once more, chart indicators, down to time range, that's the band, and then each of these are the little extension line colors. So whenever you want to change an indicator color, you've got to have first the indicator selected and then a parameter item. That's what's going to get it to actually go on there and stick. Hey Nancy, I think it comes in I think it's white by default, but I don't think there's a problem with changing it. That blue color was the default too. If I go to white and say change it to black, then it's a black line down the center of that IB. So I think the white is the default color, but you can change it. Here, the parameter items in here have to do with the underlying calc and then drawing these extensions off of that range. I don't want to I can show you how to change the setting on these and get the colors to change. For more technical explanation of what those extension factors are, I would probably let Charles or one of the other guys give you a more in-depth explanation of those, or how the indicator works itself. I'll tell you about some of the other stuff I'm doing. So I opened up this template. Charles has got some other display items, and I was just doing some other things. So to see more, if I go to the price list, the vertical axis, if I left click and drag up or down, I can expand or contract the bar height. If I right click and move up or down, I can change the whole action. If I were to put it out of whack, I just needed to recover, I can right click and go center view to bring it back in terms of the current price. So left click and drag to change height, right click to move. On the bottom axis, I have a similar feature with the left click. If I go to the time date stamps, I left click and drag left or right, I can expand or contract the space between the bars. If I want to actually move back in the history, then I have this little scroll box at the end. So it's by default it's pushed up to the front to track the live feed, but if I needed to go back into the history, I can grab this and slide it back. Just make sure that you bring it back to the front to get back with the price action ultimately if you're working on a live one. Alright, I could continue to open up some other templates like I said. So these are going to be labeled. He made some different ones for ES and so forth. I'll open up an EF F6 and you can see it's got the newer style. So he's got this F6 configured with that background. He's muted the colors a little bit so that the bars stand out from it. I'll just go through and open some other ones. In the F5 template for ES. I didn't have Charles do new market profile. I wanted F1 and F2. The ones in the training should still be valid there. I don't think there's anything significant to change with those. While we were logged out there, I picked up that strategy builder file that has the alerts set to correspond to these indicators when the B's and S's are drawn on the chart. And this was something Hari asked for and Peter helped him set up yesterday. So I dropped the file in, and this is an item that is in Strategy Builder, and I'm not going to get into a lot of the functionality with Strategy Builder right now. There are endless possibilities there, but we need that tool to reference this indicator and do it. So I'm going to go to Trading, Strategies, and Strategy Builder in this case. It'll open up blank here. If I click on Available Strategies, I see that one that I imported, SB Alerts. I dropped it in that Strategies folder earlier. I'll pick out the name and click Load, and I'll see content populate here. And if I hit the Start button, it'll be running here. This is something that runs in the background. And at this point I can do a couple things. Once I've started it, I can just close the window and let it run in the background. If I go back to it, Strategies and Strategy Builder, there's like a visual mode if you want a smaller box and indication of it. This is a simple strategy, so there's a knot here. If I click Show All, I can see an explanation of some of the little states. But I don't have to keep it open if I don't want to. I've got it running there. And at this point, it's a matter of having the audible go off when the indicator is generated. So there's a different sound for each one. Yes, Nancy, it's set up with a different sound for each letter, for each character. How do we change the sound? Let me see if it's easy to edit. Alright, so I just had one go off. The S was drawn on this chart, and I heard a cash register sound. I don't know if that came through for all of you, but it was a cash register sound on the S. Let me check on the... So I'm going to see if I can change the sound. I'm going to stop it for a moment. You have two basic items in here. You have states and conditions. So I'm going to pick out, highlight a condition, and click Edit. I see information about my item, and we've got execute this action. Alright, so bar close event. So I'm going to highlight this second line. Bear with me, I got to make sure I do this right. I'm going to ultimately replace this one. So I'm going to delete this one. Still got the info populated here. Select sound. This will show you a directory with little WAV files that we have available for the sounds. So we have a set of default files in here that you can use. If you have WAV files of your own, you can dump them in there too. So I'll change this one. Pick out a laser sound. Alright, laser. Click Add. OK. And fire it back up. It would be a different sound for each one. If I stop it again, highlight trending down, and edit. Delete it. Select the sound. Drum roll. And then start it back up again. And once again at this point, once I've got it started, there we go. So I got a laser sound there. I don't know if my sounds come through for you guys, but that would be editing the sound. And like I said, I don't want to get too much into strategy builder. I don't want to confuse anyone at this point, but this little file is a nice item. There are some people looking to get this audible alert with these. Hey Nancy, right? Yeah, I've got, this strategy builder is specific to this dome. You'll see it carries the name. My dome is ES Templates is my profile. So in this case, I had it logged into ES and got it rolling, and then opened it from here. I don't have it set up with these. I could go and I could load it in with another chart too if I wanted to, with one of these other F4s at my trade interface on these ones. And otherwise it just has to correspond. Like in this case I'm starting from a DOM, but I have to have an F4. The alert is referencing these indicators and items. If I didn't have my F4 and I tried to start the strategy, you'll get a message to that effect that there are missing items. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter which trade interface you choose. You can do it whether you're starting from a DOM or a trade chart. In the case of a DOM, in the case of the F4 trade chart, I'm already starting from the right item. I have that. But having run it from the DOM, I just have to have this F4 spawn as an extension of it so that it has that to reference otherwise. Yeah, I mean, I can run it. I mean, I have to have a trade interface. It doesn't have to be the DOM, but I could come and fire it up here on another one. So if I went to my ZB trade chart, it's already an F4 trade chart. If I go to Strategies and Strategy Builder, I can pick out that same one, load it, and start it up. So, I mean, in that case, you probably would end up customizing it. Maybe, like you said, like maybe if you had running for multiple markets, maybe you would create different sounds for each, something along those lines. All right, I just heard one go off. This is on my ES1. How to change the sounds again. I want to stop it before I edit it. I'm going to click on, I got to do them one at a time. So I got to click on one of my condition names. Click edit. And the pre-existing rule info will be up here. So I'm going to take this line and delete it. Right now it's set up this way. The rules are populated and it's associated with the cash register sound. I'm going to delete it. I don't need to change any other criteria. I'm just going to go select sound, pick out another one, click OK, and I have to bring that line back in here now. So I picked a sound, add, repopulates it, OK. Same thing if I wanted to do both sounds. This one, edit, highlight, delete, pick a sound, applause, okay, add, okay, and then I can fire it up again. So that is how to run that sound alert, and we'll have to see. This was something new. We'll see if we can get it going with some other indicators and stuff, but this is a file that can just be loaded in and tried out. Hey Nancy, at the end I'll just ask people to send in emails. I'll get this stuff posted on the download site, but because it's not up there already, most of these files are small, so I'll just ask people that want them to fire an email to support, and then I'll send them back to you as email attachments, just so you can get them quickly today. Shahab, is there a way to increase the spacing between the bars on F4? There is. On the fly, essentially, I have those controls I was showing earlier on either axis. So if I go down to the bottom axis and I put my cursor on top of the time and date stamps in this area, if I left click and I drag one way or the other, I can expand or contract the width, the spacing, horizontally. Same is true on the vertical axis. If I put my cursor on the price list, if I left click and drag up or down, I can adjust the height vertically that way. Hey Nancy, which item are you referring to? Like the indicator shapes? No, I don't think there's a control for that. I think it's like you said, it just scales along with the size of the bar. So as it gets bigger, it does, but I don't think there's an independent control for that, for the size of that item. If they were too big, I think they would end up overlapping. I don't have a way to put a fill marker above the bar. It tries to draw it, it tries to center it in terms of the time and price that you were actually filled. So it ends up being within the bar, or at least at one end of the bar, I guess. It's a thought, though. It's something we could think about doing in the future. Alright, I was going to show one other item that I thought about that was with migrating a layout file. So this will kind of be an example again of, say, if I send you all some files after this, you can use them. So I'm going to take the work I've done and save it as my own layout. I went to trading and save layout as, and I'm going to exit. And the scenario I'm assuming here is that I'm migrating computers. So earlier on I created an email and sent myself a layout file. So this would be the case where you can install the software from the download site on as many computers as you want. But if you were going to try and migrate from one computer to the other, taking your layout file and moving it is best case scenario. So I sent one over to myself. I'm going to download it. Save the copy to my desktop. Once again, you might have a different download location, a download folder, just somewhere where you can find it, to your desktop or to a download folder. And in the case of layouts, if I wanted to, I could go and manually put it in there through the mechanism that I showed earlier. You know, I could go to the actual installation directory for Inside Edge, and there's a folder here for layouts, and it just contains right now like the stock layout files. But in the case of layouts, I also have a mechanism right on the login screen. If I go to Inside Edge Trader and open, I have this button, Import Layout. So if I had a brand new installation, I wouldn't have this big list of layouts. I would have the two stock layouts, but it would be blank. If I go Import Layout, and then I go to the location where I saved it to, in my case the desktop, and then I go find that file and open it. It'll populate the name here. I want to make sure I'm not logged in on my other computer where I transferred it from before I try to log in here, only one at a time. And then click OK. And then it's going to bring up your content from your other ones so that you don't have to recreate everything from top to bottom. In this case, I've got a layout with a bunch of multi-domes. So that's an example of importing a layout file. Alright, let me see what you're saying here. I can send you whatever files you want amongst these, Nancy. Hey Fitzroy, yeah, I mean I could record just a smaller video just of loading up that alert function if you want. That SP alert. Alright, you know, we covered certain things today. I didn't really get into other functionality as well, but that's okay. We can continue to do these kind of sessions. Is there anything else today that people want to have me go over or look at or anything else? I usually don't want to make you go more than an hour because I get hoarse and we tend to get worn out. Alright. Yeah, if there's not something that people want to go over, that's fine. We can also continue to do more training sessions like this, so we can slate some more of these in the next week or so. Alright, for anybody who wants copies of any of the files that I was showing today, chart templates, the strategy builder file, whatever it may be, just send an email to support@bluewatertradingsolutions.com. support@bluewatertradingsolutions.com, and I will send them back to you as email attachments. So it's the same kind of thing I was doing here today. Just save it to your computer and then save it to the proper directory. support@bluewatertradingsolutions.com. Hey David, yeah, that's a good point. I think I did it one way earlier, but the question is about the F6 and changing the colors. So if I opened a stock F6 again, I just get these basic colors. If I change it, last up down, and then I switch each of these indicators to that background style, Tilson, background, okay. Tilson. Alright, so that's the basic display style, but like you're saying, there's not great contrast. So there's one of two things. Earlier I think I changed the bars, so if I just wanted to change the style of the candlesticks and leave the background colors of the Tilson as they are, I just go to chart parameters and adjust some of the bar items. Up bar, down bar is the interior color, and then the outside candlestick is like the border of it is black in this case. Pen width determines how thick that drawing is. So you can also just make it a little thicker. But in this case, let's go the other direction. Let's lighten the Tilson. We changed colors before on a different indicator, but we'll do it with this one, and I have to do it per pane. So if I right click in this pane, go to chart indicators, I first highlight Tilson, and then I see some parameter items down here. And I click on a parameter item to see what it's already set up as. So in the case of the Tilson, the first two are the ones I care about. The first two parameter items, I got to do them each. So in this case, I could just kind of tone it down. The top one is set for that dark red. I could go for a mild red. The second one is set for that very bright green. I could just go for a more muted one there. And once I click OK, it'll rebuild the bars and redraw it like that. And in this case, it would be the same process for each pane. If I right click here, chart indicators, highlight Tilson, first periods, red, second one, green, and one more time. Alright. And just because it's a good example too, having taken time to change all those settings and customize this chart, and anytime you take a bunch of time to customize a chart, whatever it may be, the settings, indicators, colors, instead of having to recreate that, say I wanted to open the same style now on NASDAQ. I'm going to right click, save, chart template. I'll get a save dialog with that folder chart templates, and I just got to give it a name. So I'm going to say F6 new. And at this point, if we go to charts and templates, I'm picking out a different dome here. So I went to my NASDAQ dome to pick that one out. And now I'm going to charts, templates, F6 new. And it'll open up in the same style, location as that one. So if you take time to customize the chart, go ahead and save a template of it. It's like a backup of that individual one. And it makes it easy if you want to take it and open it up against another instance or market or whatever it may be. Alright, unless there are any more questions. What's that? Hey Shab, I've already got a couple of essentially for each market that you want to look at, you have to have a profile, and for each profile you have to have a trade interface. I've got a bunch in this one. So say you've already got a trade window for one of those markets, ZB or ES that you're looking at. If you want to start out a new market, you have to start out with the new trade interface. So go to trading, new, and then pick out whatever you want. You've got choices of either the trade windows or a trade chart. I'll pick out a trade chart in this case. I'm going to go to inside edge, F4 times 3, and I get a blank one. This new template opens up, but it's blank, and this is where I can subscribe to my next market. So say this was ES, now I'm going to say ZB F4, and I'm going to go ahead and log this one in to ZB. Once I get some data going in that one, I now can spawn additional charts for this market from here. And I can repeat that process. If there were a third market, I just go trading, new, start another profile. So it's got to be a different profile name for each market, but there's not a limit. You can have a whole bunch of markets. I'm subscribed to 15 markets on here or something, probably more. And ultimately, when you want to, once you've built up what you want, remember to save it as a layout if you haven't already. Trading, save layout as. You can save it. And if you've got multiple markets, when you're ready to exit out, you don't have to click X's on individual windows. Just go to any one of your trade interfaces to trading and exit platform, and it'll shut down things across the board. Alright, so I'm going to wrap it up. Please email support@bluewatertradingsolutions.com for anybody who wants copies of templates, strategy file, or otherwise. And if there's interest in doing this, we can keep doing it. We'll do another session like this again next week. Just think of questions that people have, and we'll go through them.